Stargirl Spring Break Special Issue 1, Geoff Johns and Brian Hitch. Let's just get the first thing out of the way. At the end of this book, it does say to be continued in Stargirl Issue 1.
Yes. Good. Also, the art is not Hitch. Hitch does that. This is Todd Knock.
Wait, what?
N-A-U-C. Yeah, the art is Knock.
Hitch was mentioned.
Yeah, in the back with the Justice Society stuff. But the artist is Todd Knock.
Okay.
It's there on the title page. So I just want to give credit where it's due.
Fair enough, but the important thing I was mentioning that we didn't know there was a Stargirl book coming.
No.
When it got to the end and the story wasn't finished and it said to be continued, I was like, oh, okay. Which is interesting because it's still not solicited. We got August solicits today and there's still no Stargirl issue 1.
No. However, the how much this plays into Justice Society, it makes me wonder if they're waiting for Infinite Frontier to finish.
That would make some sense, yeah.
So to see where that is, but
I was not expecting the first page of the Stargirl special to be Oliver Queen and Emmy. Like I was not expecting that to be how this starts. I was like, okay, this is weird, but go on.
And I just so Seven Soldiers of Victory is like a real big blind spot. As much of a continuity nerd I am, it was just always one of those things where I was like, well, this seems pretty superfluous to the Justice Society. And I was like, well, wait, how do they explain Green Arrow being there? And here, I love that it involves time travel. So like, Green Arrow went to the past, was part of this team, and they got returned to the present.
Yeah, with Roy as well. Yeah, Roy went back.
With Roy, yeah, with Roy. And then Ollie kind of states, and this is why I love Johns, and I know a lot of people out there don't love Johns as much as I do, or even Pete does, but the dude knows his stuff. Like, he knows these characters. And so the fact that he has has Ollie go, yeah, I feel like some of Roy's issues came from this time travel and not being able to adjust to what had happened while we were gone. I love that tie back to continuity. Like, it sets these characters, they're almost like they're actual living people, that these stories have an impact on them. And here he's schooling Emmy because Emmy is like, no, you weren't even the first Green Arrow. There was some dude in the 40s.
Yeah, this is how we learn about this. She says, no, there was one with the clean shaven and the fur. He's like, you were in the front. And he's like, yes, I was. That was me and Roy. We went back in time.
Yeah, what? Did you hit your head or something? And yeah, it involves Clock King, and I love all of that. And of course, Emmy. Anytime I can get Emmy, like,
this is the thing. This ends up being an Emmy and Stargirl kind of team up at a certain point.
Yeah.
Before we even get to that though, Crimson Avenger shows up and says, "Oh, you're needed, the Seven Soldiers, blah blah." Yep. So that draws them into something, and then we finally cut to Stargirl, who's in detention because she was late or didn't do homework or something.
Yeah.
And we get the big 2-page cover, or not cover, the title page where she's riding on the back of Stripe and they're off because again he's been told that he needs to go and see someone to Myrtle Beach, which I assume is just
spring break spot.
It's a real place, but I hear Myrtle Beach and I'm thinking of Dark City, because isn't Myrtle Beach the beach in that they keep wanting to go to?
No, I've never seen Dark City.
Okay. It's spelled differently, I think, but
so Myrtle Beach is a spring break spot on the southeast part of in South Carolina. So of course they have to go here, during spring break because it's spring break special.
And Courtney's feeling sad because all these kids are having fun and she's kind of on duty.
Yeah. So this is the thing that I need to go back and read Stars and Stripes. I hope they are reprinting that. I think they are, because that was a John's book that was in my blind spot. I was always trying to figure out how her stepdad Pat was also around in the 40s, and now Johns had said that because of the timey-wimey that brought Ollie back, the Seven Soldiers got brought to the present.
Yes. So
he's one of them.
Yeah, so Pat's actually from the Golden Age, but he moved forward in time now.
Right, and then he met Courtney's mom, they got married, and now
at least in current continuity. Obviously, things have changed over time because we keep resetting and changing things, but
at
least right now that's the That's the story.
It was just always one of those things that it was hard to wrap my head around. And I know John just went with it because of the whole Justice Society and they age slower because of, comic book reasons and stuff. But just here and how intrinsically it's tying Stargirl now, that instead of just the Justice Society, he's tying her to the Seven Soldiers, which I get. Right.
I was gonna say this is the thing is this issue is so much about Seven Soldiers in terms of
Yes.
that's the backdrop for the story that's playing out with Courtney and everything else. That when you get to the end of the book and you have the two-page, because I was thinking, okay, this is neat, but I'm more of a JSA guy than I'm a Seven Soldiers guy. Like, so when you get to that two-page spread at the end, just to make it clear that no, this Courtney stuff is also leading and going to be tying into JSA stuff at some point, was a nice sort of okay. I feel relief. I feel relieved. Thank you.
Yeah. But so I do like though that because she's so tied to the Seven Soldiers, because she is the legacy of two heroes, which is super rare when you think about it. Right? So she's the legacy of Starman because she was given the rod, the staff at this point, from Jack Knight, and or is it Ted Knight? I gotta reread Starman. Anyways, one of the knights. But she's also the heir to the Star Spangled Kid legacy, So the fact here that they're playing with that this is what's going to be her reentry in the meta sense to the DCU, I really like that. And especially, you can give me characters to research that were all around in the Golden Age, and it makes it feel super pulpy. I'm there for it.
I mean, the way this operates is that it kind of just sort of it's one of those things where it's basically Stars and Stripe, even though not everything might match up perfectly still. This is effectively assuming that that's still more or less your continuity origin for all this stuff, and by extension to a point, kind of the TV show too, which is smart because some people may pick up a Stargirl book now who wouldn't have before because they've seen the TV show.
Well, now you've seen the first season.
Yes. And
didn't you say Seven Soldiers plays into it at one point? Like a small thread?
Yeah. I mean, they're mentioned. Okay. There's only one that's really heavily featured, but yeah. Right.
So if that tells me anything, he's show running that. He wants that synergy there. So
yeah. It is a bit of a roll call explaining the various soldiers, and tells the story of the original Crimson Avenger and seemingly his death. Although they find out that it's more of he jumped through time with the ship that he was on. Which, they go off to try and deal with the Clock King and everything going on. Courtney and Emmy decide, we're not sitting this out. And just because a bunch of young heroes have died before, we're not staying back.
I mean, it's DC. It happens every week.
Yeah. It's just par for the course. I did kind of love Emmy just sort of riding on the back of the staff as Courtney's piloting up front. It's kind of a fun visual.
Fun. So, also with this too, is that they're talking about Wing, who... Wing was Crimson Avengers, here they say sidekick, but when I did some research, basically Crimson Avenger, when they started, it was the Green Hornet and Kato. And Wing was his butler and chauffeur. And so I feel like here, this is John's trying to make good on that stereotype, right? That he's putting Wing up on a pedestal and go, no, technically Wing was the de facto 8th soldier. But, he sacrificed himself, and this is who we have to restore. It's almost like they're restoring him to the timeline, which there's a character I had no idea about, and I thought Johns had just added there, right? But no, he's all playing with established Seven Soldiers story.
Well, I mean, this is something we have to do from time to time with comics because, so many comics were written long ago when things, where there were stereotypes, there were racist and homophobic things thrown into comics, and we have to clear them up over time. And it's certainly not a bad way of doing it.
No. I wouldn't be surprised that through the Stargirl series, and we start rectifying a lot of those, because if you're going to reintroduce a 40s era JSA, you kind of have to deal with those, but in a smart way. And I feel like doing something like this, where you're putting Wing as almost the MacGuffin, and they have to settle the Crimson Avenger time loop almost thing, right? That I feel like he's just playing again. I love when John plays with continuity, and he's doing that here. So, but yeah, so you got them and Emmy, and they're fighting Clock King on this giant clock in the middle of this time storm, and there's pterodactyls attacking and whatnot.
Clearly there's paradoxes and like
yes.
time anomalies happening around all this Clock King stuff. And this is a very classic looking Clock King with the blue and the green cape and the clock face. This is not the more uptight sort of posh looking dude.
The dude with the cane and the glasses that was like watch faces.
Very different type of Clock King.
Yeah.
At one point, Oliver gets blasted with like a time wave, and we see like young Oliver and then old Oliver who's missing the arm and has the beard.
The Dark Knight Returns version.
Yeah, we see them sort of all side by side, sort of react in pain at the same time. And Oliver says that he feels kind of weird after, like he felt like he saw the whole timeline in one fell swoop. But this is Courtney and Emmy jumping in and actually really saving the day and getting to Crimson Avenger. And Crimson Avenger, effectively, them trying to like save this. It turns out that all along, Crimson Avenger was destined to die on this ship.
Right.
He just makes the choice now in the future where he's going to, essentially, save everyone by, sacrificing himself. But it's. I mean, I think this is a really solid issue in terms of introducing all this stuff. It's maybe a little bit overstuffed in terms of how many characters you have to sort of take on board. If you're not familiar with a lot of these characters, there's a lot to take in here. But it does feel like it reminds me of reading JSA a little bit. Like it reminds me of having like all that dense history where I don't necessarily know all of it. I don't necessarily get all of it right away. But clearly, Johns loves all these characters, is trying to like build them all up at the same time, and this reminds me a lot of that issue. If you go back to the start of the GSA run, there was like a secret files thing before the actual run started. It kind of reminds me of that, even though Johns himself wasn't actually heavily involved in it until issue 6 or whatever it was. But it's giving me that kind of vibe, and that's kind of what I'm getting here from this.
Yeah, so like Crimson Avenger, this version, the new one, Joe Carlisle. I had forgotten about that character because it's been forever since I've read Justice Society, where she had showed up. So trying to rectify all of that with this version of Crimson Avenger was a lot for me, but I had a lot of fun doing it. And this is the type of stuff that I used to do when I first started reading comics. And it was a lot more difficult, to search through. Like you got to maybe go to the shop and ask someone if they knew what was up. Now, thankfully, we have Google.
You have DC Wiki.
DC Wikis and whatnot. So, just to see, like, for them to mention that the Crimson Avenger was kind of the first superhero, even predating Sandman, and, it stopped using guns and used gas guns before Sandman, and just how much, And
I like that detail as well, that Wing was the one who kind of stopped the gun, kind of like inspired him to stop using guns and start using non-lethal methods.
And stuff, and the fact that we see Wing running through some weird dimension with two people in shadows, one of which looks like Obsidian, if I had to guess just from the outline, which would maybe make the other one Jade. But basically talking about they have to get back to Judy Garrick, which isn't Judy Jay's wife. I can't remember.
I don't remember her name being Judy.
No, I don't either. But does he have a daughter then? Because we get to the point at the end of this where Courtney.
I assumed it was referring to a daughter or something, even though I don't remember there being a daughter. But like that's the sort of thing where continuity might have changed, and I just don't know about it.
It's Joan, not Judy.
Yeah, that's what. Joan's the wife. Yeah, Joan's the wife.
Yeah, let me see. Look. Yeah. So who's Judy Garrick? That's a good question. But so basically.
I mean, she could be new. This could be an intentional tease, but because obviously we're all going to see the name Garrick and go, wait a minute.
Yeah, well, so it says this way, hurry, Wing. We can't leave Judy Garrick behind. We can't leave any of them here secret. So that lady's okay. So that's Secret, who's another established DC character. So it's not. I should have looked by the tendrils. There's like smoke coming off her. And he says, "We're not going to, Danny." So now I'm on I smell a mystery.
Yes. I mean, to sum all this up, because I feel like we're getting lost in the weeds a little bit here. I think we have to just kind of sum up the event of what actually happened in this issue. So, the original Crimson Avenger, not the newer one with the blindfold and the gloves, right? Who's the one I do remember from GSA.
Right.
But she has gathered all the 7 soldiers who currently exist, which, obviously has changed a little bit since the Golden Age. But basically, the ship that the original Crimson Avenger on with Clock King's weird device that was causing all the time anomalies, that appeared in present day near the beach, near the Myrtle Beach, and they're all out there fighting. Courtney and Emmy go out to try and help, and they're the ones that actually get to Crimson Avenger, the original Crimson Avenger, and actually help destroy the device, which then fixes all the problems. But through all these time anomalies, we see glimpses of Wing with these other characters. We see glimpses of these other things going on. I'm trying to sum up the actual, just so people understand, if they haven't read it or whatever, just to give a sense of what's actually going on here, because I feel like we're doing all these details and no,
you're fine. Because I was rushing to get to the green text here towards the end, which I feel that this is the plot thread going forward.
Oh sure, yes. The childminder is coming. The lost sons, the lost daughters, the children need to be free. Which to me sounds like a lot of kids who were written out of continuity are coming back to continuity. That's what it sounds like.
That's what I wanted to get to, and that's why that's why I got so hyper focused on who Judy Garrick is and stuff and whatnot, because this is one of those things that it's playing with continuity, and I'm here for that, because when you have as much continuity as DC does, there's a lot to mine there.
I mean, have you found a Judy Garrick?
No.
I mean, maybe this is like a Dawn from the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer type thing, where they're going to insert a daughter of Jay Garrick and coming back with all these other characters who have been written out of continuity, but she never actually existed in the first place. They're just adding her in as like an extra. Maybe that's what they're doing. I don't know. But
so I also want to point out too that The Secret, so I just pulled her up, co-created by Todd Knock, who drew this.
There you go.
So whatever it is, I don't know. His name is Todd. So whoever Danny is. So whoever these lost quote characters are, I feel like this is kind of the bridge to when we can get to the Justice Society and whatnot, just based off of this, because Courtney and Emmy come and help save the day, and the machine implodes and everyone's safe, and she gets her superhero spring break adventure. Which I do love the ending here, because they're all gone back and they have dinner, but she's because only I think she's the only one that heard that, right? Because they had a service for Lee Travis and stuff, but he sent her to Dr. Midnight, so Dr. Midnight's around in this now, right? So what does this mean for the greater JSA stuff too? That got me there.
Yeah, well, the actual ending is Emmy showing up to Courtney and saying, "Hey, everyone says Wing is dead, but I've got a lead." And she's like, "Yeah, let me get my staff." And it just says "to be continued" in Stargirl issue 1, which is the end of the main part of the story. So that was like exciting to see that at the bottom there, because they hadn't actually mentioned that as of yet. And I didn't really see spoilers written. And I thought the book was mostly done on some like backup material, but there is actually a couple of more pages. There's a tease of Degaton, who is the sort of Nazi style like villain,
Nazi time traveler. As if I need a better villain, right?
Because this is the thing, the Clock King it was his doing that caused all the problems. The tech that he was using was kind of ripped off from this Degaton, who I don't know really well, but I'm excited by the prospect here. And then
time traveling Nazi. That's all you need.
And then it leads to so at the end of that page, there are people I'm going to hurt, and then you turn the page, and there's a 2-page spread. It is more or less a pin-up. It says, so it continues his speech where he says a lot of them. And who do we see on this page? We see a glorious 2-page spread of the JSA, including a lot of the characters you'd be hoping for, some that you expect, some are kind of the younger, newer versions, and then but you see like the older versions sort of in a more muted color tone in the back, But I would presume that this the front batch that are in full color, that is going to be the present day JSA with all the legacy characters, because that only partly because you got Courtney, but you also have a lot of younger versions. You have the new Dr. Midnight, the new Wildcat, You have the new younger versions of these characters, whereas the ones in the back are the Golden Age version. So, I mean, are we going to get like 2 books? Are we going to get like the Golden Age version in a book and then the modern version in a book? Are we going to get a book where it sort of jumps between the timelines of both of them because there's time travel?
So if it's John's, it wouldn't surprise me if it's both at the same time. You know, if we're using the past to tell, or telling the future to tell the story of the past, because you look at some of these, you know, like you have Earth 2, Power Girl, and Huntress there in the background. You know,
you have Power Girl. You have Power Girl in the foreground as well.
But no Huntress, right? So it's a little bit different.
Well, yeah, because Earth 2 Huntress would be Helena Wayne, whereas the Huntress we have in current continuity is not that. It's Barnelli.
But also Earth 2 Power Girl is Kara Zor-El. You know, it's grown up Supergirl. So yeah. So you just have a whole bunch of them through here, you know. You have the Hawks in the background there too. You have Wonder Woman in multiple spots, you know. And same with Dr. Min. So it seems like there's like almost 3 versions of the Justice Society here, you know, to play off of. Although I am missing Liberty Bell and or Jessie Quick, whatever she's going to go by.
I think it's actually really easy to distinguish. I mean, I don't think it's really that important that there's 3 versions, although I do agree that the background is split in 2. I think the right-hand side is the Earth 2 version of the JSA, and then the left-hand side is the Golden Age version of the JSA is my... And
this is the if you smash them together, you know, you get the foreground guys, which is our Justice Society.
I mean, right? But a lot of it's the legacy versions. It's the newer, younger versions, and so on. So obviously, I am delighted by wherever this is going. Like the idea that this is actually leading to JSA stuff, whether it's a JSA book or because I can see it not being. I can see John's doing a Stargirl book, but then JSA is by Snyder.
Well, yeah, but see, it says on here Justice Society by Johns and Hitch. Now, you're not just going to give that to the pinup.
Well, it's also the page before as well. The page before is also Johns and Hitch.
Yeah, true.
So it's technically a 2-page story. So
you got me there.
Yeah, I think this is just the credits for this little 2-page thing.
Gotcha.
But, I mean, don't get me wrong. Am I going to be upset if it's John's JSA and a Stargirl book at the same time that are interlinked? Sign me up. Yeah. Sign me up all day long. But just given how much there was Snyder teasing for JSA stuff for a long time, it wouldn't surprise me if he was still doing the JSA book. That was, he was going to work closely with Johns, who's doing Stargirl. That wouldn't shock me either. But
just give them to me. I miss them.
Of course.
So
you know. But there was some decent JSA related stuff in the last issue of Flash, so
I have to get there.
You have to get there.
So
so there you go. That's basically it. There's a Where's Stripesy page at the back just for fun. But
like an idiot, I yelled, "Found him!" as I was reading this at work. So
no point in spoiling it. You might as well, if you're reading the book at home, you might as well find it for yourself. Needless to say, very interesting stuff. Excited about the future. I like the kind of the solid sort of grounding of trying to like tie all this continuity together, and it feels like if it lives up to what I want it to be, which is basically just like a new version of JSA, even if it's not, even if Johns isn't doing JSA and he's just in a Stargirl book, even if the Stargirl book is just kind of, oh, that's the young JSA book frontline by Stargirl, and the same way the TV show is kind of, oh, they're doing young JSA, but I mean it's called Stargirl. Like I'm okay with that too, but I'm delighted by the prospect of that. I think as an issue, I think all the continuity stuff that it's teasing and all the stuff that it's doing is really interesting. It's not necessarily the best pace book, and it's definitely maybe a little too overstuffed with characters at points. So I wouldn't say it's the best crafted issue. I would say it's a decent crafted issue with a lot of really exciting forward-going ideas and teases.
I mean, it is a special, so I feel like it did feel special in this. You know what I mean? Like, I did enjoy the story, but I also love pulpy, timey-wimey stuff that plays with continuity. So this is right in my nook.
Yes, but specials that also play with timey-wimey continuity stuff can still be better paced.
I don't know. I didn't mind the pacing. So, I thought it was fine.
Yeah. I think there's some maybe some technical qualms with it, but I'm into what it's doing. So I dare I ask, Matt, what are you rating the Stargirl Spring Break Special issue 1?
I'm giving this a 9, and I know that's high, but I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's a little overstuffed in places. So I'm going to go a bit lower and say the 8, but I am very excited about everything that it's setting up and whatnot. You know, that you know, I love the tease of Digaton anyway, but when he said I'm going to hurt a lot of people, then you turn the page and it's that GSA 2-page spread. Like I popped for that. So
Yep.
You know, cool stuff.
It's great.